You have to unmute Ram also.
Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ji ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodar Ji ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhans Parivrajikacharya Ashtotra Shat Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki Jai Nitrila Pravishna Vishnupad Ashtotra Shat Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj ki Jai Nitrila Pravishna Vishnupad Ashtotra Shat Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki Jai Nitrila Pravishna Vishnupad Ashtotra Shat Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Acharya Keshari Param Gurudev Nitrila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtotra Shat Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki Jai Jagat Guru Nitrila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtotra Shat Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki Jai महाभागवत श्रील गौर किशोरदास बाबा जी महाराज की जय सप्तम गोस्वामी सच्चिदानंद श्रील भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्रील जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी महाराज की जय श्री गौरी वेदांताचार्य श्रील बलदेव विद्याभूषण प्रभु की जय श्री गौरी रसाचार्य श्रील विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय श्रील नरोत्तम श्रीनिवास श्यामानंद प्रभु त्रय की जय श्री कृष्णदास कविराज गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय व्यास भिन्न शिल वृंदावन दास ठाकुर की जय श्री रूप सनातन भट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शर गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय श्री लोकनाथ दास गोस्वामी की जय श्री भूगर्भ गोस्वामी की जय श्री स्वरूप दामोदर गोस्वामी राय रामानंद शिखी मोहिती माधवी देवी गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय नाम आचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री अंतरद्वीप मायापुर सीमंत द्वीप गोद्रम द्वीप मध्य द्वीप कोलद्वीप ऋतुद्वीप जानद्वीप मौद्र द्वीप रुद्राद्वीप आत्मक श्री नवद्वीप धाम की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपी गोवर्धन द्वादशवनात्मक श्री ब्रजमंडल की जय सर्वभीष्ट प्रदायिनी श्री गिरिरानी महारानी की जय श्री ललिता विशाखादि सखी वृंद की जय श्री अनंग मंजरी की जय श्री रूप मंजरी रति मंजरी कमल मंजरी आदि मंजरी की जय जय श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड यमुना गंगा तुलसी भक्ति देवी की जय कुल देवी भगवती पूर्णमासी देवी योग माया की जय श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा सुदर्शन चक्र जी की जय पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय भक्ति विघ्न विनाशनकारी नरसिंह भगवान की जय भक्त प्रवर श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय चारों धाम चारों आचार्य चारी संप्रदाय की जय आक्रमदराज श्री चैतन्य मठ की जय श्री केशव जी गौड़िया मत की जय श्री रूप सनातन गौड़िया मत की जय श्री गोपीनाथ भवन की जय श्री गिरधारी गौड़िया मत की जय जय श्री श्री केशव जी गौड़िया मत कोलदीप धाम एवं श्री गुरुदेव समाधि मंदिर की जय जय श्री दामोदर गौड़िया मत की जय श्री रमन बिहारी राधा माधव गौरवाणी गंगा माता गौड़िया मत की जय अन्य अन्य शाखा मत समूह की जय कलयुग पावन त्रिभुवन मंगलकारी गोलोकेर प्रेम धन हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय जुगल नाम हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय मृदंग करताल की जय शिल भक्ति कमल गोविंद महाराज की जय शिल भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज की जय शिल गौर गोविंद गोस्वामी महाराज की जय शिल भक्ति विज्ञान भारती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय शिल भक्ति वल्लभ तीर्थ गोस्वामी महाराज की जय शिल भक्ति कुमुद संत गोस्वामी महाराज की जय शिल भक्ति वैभव पुरी गोस्वामी महाराज की जय शिल भक्ति जीवन जनार्दन गोस्वामी महाराज की जय शिल भक्ति दैत माधव गोस्वामी महाराज की जय शिल भक्ति रक्षक श्रीधर गोस्वामी महाराज की जय शिल भक्ति श्री रूप सिद्धांत गोस्वामी महाराज की जय शिल भक्ति प्रमोद पुरी गोस्वामी महाराज की जय स्वपरिकर जगत गुरु शिल प्रभुपाद की जय वृंदावन वासी भक्त वृंद की जय नीलाचल वासी भक्त वृंद की जय नवद्वीप धाम वासी भक्त वृंद की जय गौर देश वासी भक्त वृंद की जय जे देशे वैशे गौरांगेर गण की जय होया छेन होइबेन प्रभुर जतदास की जय all devotees watching on Facebook, YouTube and Zoom ki jai in the past. No, that's not possible. In the present and in the future ki jai. Anand Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Samagat Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Jai Shri Mahadvadashi ki jai. Shri Bhishma Panchak ki jai. Vrat Palankari Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shripad Bhakti Vedanta Tridandi Maharaj ki jai. Shripad Achyutananda Prabhu ki jai, Shripad Jiva Pavana Prabhu ki jai, and all other Vaishnavas present ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. And Tarun Prabhu will put up Sri Damodarastakam for me. Namamishvara Sachidananda Rupa Lasat Kundala Gokule Vrajamana Yashoda Bhyolukha Ladhavamana Param Drishtamatya Tato Drutya Gopya Namamishvara Sachidananda Rupa Lasat Kundala Gokule Vrajamana Rudantam Muhur Netra Jugmam Rijanta Karam Bhoja Yugmena Satam Kanetra Muhuswasakampa Trirekhanka Kantha Stita Graiva Damodaram Bhakti Bhakti Namamishvara Sachidananda Rupa Asat Kundala Gokule Vrajamana Iti Drika Swalila Bhirananda Kunde Swaghosham Nimajantamakhya Payantam Tadiye Shitageshu Bhaktarjitatvam Puna Prematastam Shatabriti Vande Namamishwaram Sachidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Varam Deva. Need to swallow. Varam Deva Moksham Namokshavadhim Va Na Chanyam Vrineyaham Vareshadapiha Idam Teva Purnatha Gopala Bala Sada Me Manasyavi Rashtam Kimanye Namamishwaram Sachidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Idam Te Mukham Bhojam Apyakta Nilar Vritam Kuntala Snigdharakta Ishcha Gopya Muhushchumbitam Bimbarakta Dharam Manasya Virasha Malam Lakshalabhay Namamishwaram Sachidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasiddha Prabho Dukha Jala Bhimagna Kripa Drishti Vristyati Dinam Batanu Grihanesha Mamakya Edhyakshidrishe Namamishwaram Sachidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Kuveratmajo Badhamurtyaiva Yatvat Tvaya Mochito Bhakti Bhajo Krito Cha Tatha Prema Bhaktim Swakame Prayacha Namokshe Graho Mesti Damodareha Namamishwaram Sachidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Namaste Studamne Spuradipti Dhamne त्वदीयोदरायाथ विश्वस्य धाम्ने नमो राधिकाय त्वदीयप्रियाय नमो नन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नमो राधिकायै त्वदीयप्रियायै नमो राधिकायै त्वदीयप्रियाय नमो राधिकायै त्वदीयप्रियाय नमो नन्दलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं राधा दामोदर दामोदर राधा दामोदर जय राधा दामोदर राधे हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताई गौर हरि बोल निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल
Very well, thank you, Ramananda Prabhu. We have double billing of Ramananda Prabhu today, I believe.
Sorry about that.
Not your fault. You're not the one who scheduled the kirtan. Very well, Dandava pranams. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmae Shri Guruve Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyadmane Shri Shrimad Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namine Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. So before beginning, I'd like to offer my humble obeisances to the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Om Vishnu Pada Stotra Asata Shri Shrimad Bhaktivedanta Vanaya Goswami Maharaj. So lotus feet of my Param Guru Devs, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj and Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj. To lotus feet of our demos, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. To lotus feet of all our Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Vag, to all Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, and to all present watching on Zoom, Facebook, offer my Dandavat pranams. So today is day 27. I think in most places it's Ekadasi, maybe not in the States, but for us, it is Ekadasi. So we've got a special day today. We're going to have an overview of the Vrndavan Parikrama, somewhat like a drone or a bird flying over that, right, Maharaj?
Yes.
So yes. Just like in the Vedas, how sometimes some personalities in the Vedas were manifested the boon of an aeroplane. So Maharaj also has his virtual Zoom aeroplane, and he's taking us in the aeroplane all around Vrndavan to see the whole route. So that's where we're starting. So that's a beautiful opportunity to connect more with the Dham. Then are we having a poem on Damodarastakam?
Yes, that'll come afterwards.
So with Sriman Madam Mohan Prabhu, we're having this poem of Damodarastakam, and then we will be going back to studying Damodarastakam more with Pujapad Tridani Maharaj. So before that, we have another beautiful video, so I will share that now.
Sound?
Tarun, did you share the sound?
Sound.
Kundalam Gokule Vraja-mandalam
Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Om Meghanaatimirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Anapetyam Apetykrityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Achuhava Putreti Tam Mayatayo Taravo Benedustam Sarvabhutam Munimanatoshmi. Bhaktya Vihina Raparada Lakshay Shiptos Chakarmadi Taranga Madhye, Kripa Maitwam Sharanam Prapanam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam. Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karana Pradram Tatom Mamanasti Katyena Kapi. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Vrndavan pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasdara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nityalila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasdara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And unto the lotus feet of all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Vargya, headed by our most beloved Rupa Goswami, and to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today, by the causeless mercy of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, we have come to the 27th day of our Parikrama in Braj. We're staying today in Giridhari Gaudiya Math, and yesterday we celebrated the Tirobhav of Srila Gaurkishore Babaji with great happiness and inspiration, and also the Abhibhav of Srila Daita, Bhakti Dvaita Madhav Maharaj. So this was very wonderful to connect with these personalities and get an infusion of their mercy. So today we're going to be carrying on our reading of Damodarastakam, but just before we do that, I would just like to refresh everyone's visual appreciation of how we've been moving through this Vraja-mandala. And if we look at the map now, Manjalali, you can put that map up. So if you expand this map, now we have the Jamuna River running through the center of Vraja-mandala. And if we begin our mandal from Vrndavan, where the cursor is now, there's 5 forests, as I've mentioned many times, on the eastern side of the Jamuna. This is Bhadravan, Vrndavan, Bailvan, Lohavan, Mahavan. So if we draw a line from Vrndavan to Vrndavan, Bhadravan to Vrndavan, yes, and then go down to Bailvan, yes, keep going, and then go down to Lohavan and Mahavan. So now you can, and then we're going to go across the river into Madhuvan. So see our route. And then from Madhuvan, we're going to go to, drop down a little bit to Talvan, Kamudvan, and we're going to just touch on the forest of Bahulavan, which I don't know is mentioned here. Yes, okay, Bahulavan. Okay, and now we're going to come on the southern side of Govardhan. So you just have to sort of swing around Govardhan and go down to the bottom of Govardhan, and then go out to Dig. And then from there, go to Adibadri, which is on the very perimeter there. And then we're going to come up to Kamyavan. And then from yes, very good, it's looking good. And then from Kamyavan, we're going to come across the top to Nandagaon and Varshana. Oh, not Varshana, we'll leave Varshana for a minute. If you can rub that out. It doesn't matter. But from Nandagaon to Javat, yes. Oh, now you rubbed it all out. Oh, no, you haven't. Okay.
Too much. Wait.
From Mahavan across the river to Madhuvan, Talvan, Kamudvan,
We went to
Bahulavan.
Bahulavan, the top Govardhan, and
Yes,
to
correct.
Dig,
Dig,
Adibadri,
Adibadri, and Kamyavan, and then
Nandagan.
coming Nandagan, and then going to Javat.
Yeah.
And then we're going to cross over the road. The map doesn't show this, but there's a township of Koshi is above. We usually go to Koshi when we're on our Parikrama. And yes, just go to the main road there. And then bring it across almost east. Just keep going east till you get to Shirghat, right beside the Jamuna. Yes, 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 beautiful. And now come down to Vrndavan. On this side of the river. Yeah. Okay, so at a stretch, if you opened that map, you could almost see a heart shape from Vrndavan. You just connect Bhadravan to Vrndavan. Just go straight up there. Yes, so it's something of a heart shaped, if you can you see that or not? Is it just my imagination? But in our minds, we can see practically, if the forests on the eastern side were marked close to the edges of their borders, where the mandal finishes, that red line, if it came closer to the edge of the border line, you would see it looking more like a heart shape. I think you put the heart shape upside down. No, you got a black line there, but the heart is the other way.
Taran was doing this, right?
No, Taran, put it the other way around. The heart comes down, you see, to Vrndavan, the center of it.
So this is like, here's the heart.
Yeah, the heart begins from Bhadravan, and it comes right around through Kamyavan, and then it comes down in the center of the heart to Vrndavan.
Yeah.
And then you have the sort of heartbeat of Govardhan. This is like in the center of Braj. But I just wanted to go over these places with you, just so that we can get more and more familiar with the actual geography and the structure of Braj. I mean, it's our eternal home. If we're suddenly instructed by Sri Radhika in Javat, quickly go to Kokilvan and get some bale flowers, something, then you should know where you're talking. You don't want to be asking people the direction. Well, how do I get there? So we should have some understanding of the routes, etc., and where we are. But with a expert graphic artist, I think we could pinch this into a image of a heart. And if we took it right back to 40,000 feet out perspective, I think we could see the image of a heart being impressed within Vraj-mandala. Because after all, we know that it is the heart of Sri Radhika and Krishna also. So we can make the shape of a heart, superimpose onto it. And just to get the bearings, though, to get the townships, etc., and our route, because we've only got 2 more days out in the field, and we're going to go to Varshana, and we're going to go to Javat, which is in the north again. And then you'll see how we've covered practically the whole of Braj. We've gone right through the mandal. If you just mark Varshana for a moment, just below Nandagan, yes, you see there. And then we've also got Javat is close by. Yes, we're going to go there also. So this is actually the forest of Kadirvan right here. So these are the principal forests and the principal townships that we've already covered. I wanted to do this today because the next 3 days are quite packed up. We have the Varshana Parikrama, and we have the Javat Parikrama, and then we have the glorification of Srila Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj. So I just wanted today to share with you the appreciation for this, these locations geographically, so that we all feel very much at home. And daily we can reflect on this Vraja-mandala while we're chanting our japa, whatever. We can start to get a feeling for it. It's like all the forests on the eastern side, they're practically all cow grazing pastimes. It's Bhadravan, Bandiravan, and then Bailvan. Bhadravan is a cow grazing pastimes. Bandiravan is also beautiful pastimes, Radharani wrestling, etc. You see, in your minds, you can touch on the different pastimes. In Bailvan, of course, it's Lakshmi Devi still meditating. And then in Lohavan, it's sort of like sage country. It's like Durvasa Rishi ashram and Parashuram ashram there. And then Mahavan, of course, is Gokul. So if we get familiarity with the pastimes, and then of course we cross over and we have Madhuvan, where is Dhruva Maharaj is in Madhuvan, and beautiful cow grazing pastimes there also. And the pastime of Satrughna, when he came to kill that Lavanasura demon. And then we have Talvan, which is the killing of Denakasura. And then we have Kamudvan, the beautiful sweet pastimes there. Bahulavan also, the pastime of the cow that's usually spoken there. And then we come around Giriraj Govardhan into Dig and Rajasthan, this area of Badrik Ashram, which is like high up in the Himalayas. And then we come through to Kamyavan, which is traditionally the home of Mother Yashoda. And so many pastimes. Vrindadevi today is residing there, and Gopinath deity and Govindadev and Kameshwar Mahadev are there. So just try to hold on to these pastimes and the location of where they are. And then we go above to Nandagaon, where we went with the Terkadamba, etc., and all these rich places there, Udav Kieri, etc. And then we cross over into Koshi, which is also, there's beautiful pastimes of when Krishna's knocking on the door and Radhika says, "Who is there?" And Krishna is saying, "Oh, this is, what does he say first? Oh, this is Hari." And Radhika said, "Oh, what is a lion doing knocking on my door?" And there's this beautiful conversation between Krishna and Radha that takes place in Koshi. So this is another pastime. But just to get the impression of the entirety of Braj stored in our memories, I think personally is very, very helpful for our meditation on Braj throughout the year, that we become familiar with it. We can get it in a package, so to speak. So that's principally what I wanted to share with the devotees today. So, okay, if there's any questions about that, you can ask now. And anyone has any comments or queries or additions or anything, you can mention anything now. And remember how I mentioned previously how Mathura appears to be like right in the middle of Braj. And I told you how Srila Gurudev reconciled that by saying, if you look at the stars at night, you might see a cluster, but they're not all in the same proximity. Some may be millions of miles further back than others. Others may be very forward. So in other words, this Vraja-mandala is of a certain dimension, and Mathura is in a four-dimensional vision, way, way back, very deeply back. So that's the reconciliation of why Mathura apparently seems to be right in the middle of the Vraja-mandala. So anyway, we can just get a picture, the complete picture, because now we've already traveled to all these places together. In the last 27 days, we've touched on practically all of these places. So this is where we've been and how we've been carrying around. So just more and more familiarity with the geographical locations, I think, is really helpful for our meditation and appreciation. And as the years go by, then we'll become more and more familiar with it. It's just like I was thinking today when we first hear about Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Shriyadakshay Vishnu, the whole process of creation. When we first hear about it, it seems like just mind-blowing, so to speak. But as we hear it more and more and more, all the time, constantly, then it becomes very much practically second nature for us. So also with the dynamic of Vraj-mandala, we want to make it our second nature. What are the pastimes that are taking place in each of the groves and the kunjas, etc., and to get more of a in-depth feeling on that. Okay, so if there's no questions on that,
Maharaj, someone's asking for like further explanation of where the heart is.
Oh, if you were able to sort of superimpose a heart, if you take from Bhadravan down to Bandiravan, that line doesn't seem very strong, but it's at a push. You can sort of see it. If you take out Bahulavan, for example, yes, very good. You're doing it nicely now. Yes, and go around. Yes, and then go down. Yes, okay, you got it. And Vrndavan is like the center there. Then you come back up again. Yes, to Bhadravan. Can you see that heart shape that Tarun has just put in with the?
That's actually not me. That's Manjulali is doing.
Oh yeah. Okay. But if that was sort of in illumination, we could see it sort of superimposed onto the Vraj-mandala. And this is actually our journey. Our journey takes us around the peripheral of that. This is how our journey has been. So it was just a image that came into my mind this morning, and I'd never sort of considered it previously. It doesn't seem to fit so well now. We've drawn it here on the map, but I would have to sort of work on it physically with a graphic artist to make it come out and demonstrate that image of the heart on Vraj. Anyway, that's just an idea to go with. Okay, anything else?
I was also wondering, so there's the 12 principal forests of Vrndavan, right?
Yes.
But there are more forests. So
yes.
How does it work? How does that work? Like, are there 12 principal forests and then a certain number of secondary forests?
Then there's 28 upavans, they're called, which is, sub-forests, and then there's sub-forests again. The whole of Vraj originally was just a forested area of wildlife, bird life, secret kunjas, etc., and places for the cows to graze, etc. But the whole Vraj-mandala, if we have ever been to any sort of beautiful parkland or anything like that, this was, of course, a million times more than that. But the whole of this 84 square miles was completely like the most pristine, beautiful parkland. Everything was organized by Vrindadevi, of course. She has planted every single blade of grass, bush, tree within this mandal of Vraj for the pastimes of the divine couple. So much there, so much to consider. The pastimes within there also, as well. I'm just showing the structure at the moment, but the pastimes that manifest within that, of course, are the highlight, and that's what our meditation is. But it's more relatable when we know where we are, when we know where we're going. Okay, Tarun.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I never knew there were 28 subforests. So
yeah, that's described in the beginning of the Parikrama book. I can give you more details of that tomorrow. Yes. Okay. Jai. So now we're going to leave the structure, and we have a very special guest with us tonight, who's a disciple of Sri Sirup Bhagavat Maharaj, who was a disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was initiated Sri Rup Bhagavat Maharaj was initiated in 1933 by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. And he left his body, I think it was about 92, 93, this Sri Rup Bhagavat Maharaj. So Madan Mohan is Prabhu, is the devotee who's going to share with us he's put into poetry form, in English poetry, the translations of the Damodarastakam, the 8 verses of the Damodarastakam. So it's very beautiful to hear this rendition in English poetry. At the moment, we just have prose, right, of the translation, but he's made it into poetry. So these 8 verses. So Madan Mohan Prabhu Ki Jai. Okay, so Madan is here.
Yes.
Oh, here he is. Yes, yes. Dandavas, Madan Prabhu.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It's very kind of you, and I'm very privileged to have the opportunity. So shall I do a short Mangala Charana?
Yes, please. Yes.
But before you start, Prabhu, can everyone hear Madam Mohan well?
Could be a little bit louder.
It's a little bit quiet, Madan.
Your
microphone's a little bit quiet, perhaps.
Okay. Is that any better?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'll come a bit
Just.
closer.
Yes.
I'm a tech dinosaur. I don't know actually how to turn the microphone volume up.
Well, what are you? Are you using a laptop?
A kind of laptop, a Chromebook.
Yeah, exactly. So if you maybe like turn your laptop and bring it closer to you,
Okay.
like I've kind of done now, then your microphone will be somewhere built into the laptop and it will pick up your voice better.
Testing, testing. How's that?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, it's okay. Yes, it's good.
Okay. Ready then?
Yes, go for it.
Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tang Sajivam Satvaitam Savathutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhan Vitangscha Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Saraswati Priyatmane Srimati Bhakti Srirupa Bhagavata Vidayine Namo Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Narayana iti namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami iti namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati iti namine. Wait a minute, I forgot that how it goes. Namaste Sri Varshavanavi Devi Layitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vikyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhuryojjala Premadya Sri Rupanugabhaktida Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Sri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudha Siddhanto Dvanto Harini Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhi Adambojayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namini Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravirbhava Bhumestam निर्देष्टा सज्जनप्रिय वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनाम्ने गौरतिसे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। श्रीगौराङ्ग नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत चन्द्र गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पति गोपेशा गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। सप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। So before I start, can you hear me? I bow to
Yeah.
all the Vaishnavas and the Vaishnavis here, and to the lotus feet of my Guru Deva, Bhakti Siddhu Bhagavad Maharaja, Nityalila Pravishta, to Srimad Narayan, Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Maharaj, who's the great Guru of a lot of my friends, and to all the Guru Varga of the Rupa Nuga tradition. So I'll just quickly go through this Damodarastakam and be done. But I feel like I need to just, as I'm doing it, do the original as well, just to take shelter of Satyavrata Muni. So I'll begin. I'll just quickly say it. Namamishwaram Satchidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashodabhiyo Lokhaladhavamanam Paramrishtam Atyantato Durutya Gopya. I bow to the eternal joy divine, the Almighty, who in Gokul doth shine with glistening pendants hung upon each ear, who fled the grinding mortar in great fear of Yashoda, who ran for him too fast. The cowherd dame in swiftness him surpassed, and seized upon him from behind at last. Number 2. Rudantam muhurnetra yugmam rijantam karamboja yugmena satankanetram muhushasa kampatrire kankakanta sitagriva damodaram bhaktibadham. Repeatedly he weeps and sobs and cries. With lotus hands he rubs his fearful eyes, moistened with apprehension and affright. With panting breath his jewel necklace bright shakes on his conch-like neck with creases 3, bound only by the loving devotee. 3. Itidrik Swalilabhirananda kunde swaghosham nimajjantamakhyapayantam tadiyesitaggeshu bhaktairjitatvam punah prematasang satavritti vande. Thus, by such wondrous childhood deeds as this, he plunges his lovers in pools of bliss, and to the curious who wish to know his perfect submission to love doth show. Repeatedly and in 100 ways I bow to him with love and sing his praise. 4. Varam deva moksham na mokshavadhim va nachanyam vraneham vare sadapiha iktham idam deva purnatha gopala balam sada me manasya vidastam kimanyai. O God of boons, I do not seek from thee salvation even in the best degree, nor do I choose or any boon require. This, my dear Lord, is my only desire, that this thy form as the young cowherd boy may in my mind remain. What other joy with this blessing could equal or exceed? Indeed, I have for other boons no need. 5. Idam te mukambo jamachantani lehi. It's a footnote on that line for you. It's idam te mukambo jam at avyakta nilai in many editions, probably the one you have. But in the one I'm working from, it's atyanta nilai. Either way, it doesn't really matter. It's just an adjective, either suggesting extremely or ineffably, indescribable or extremely black. Idang te mukambo jamatyantani lair vritam kuntalai snigda raktaischa gopya muhustum bitam bimba raktararam me manasya virastamalam lakshalabhai. This lotus face of thine of beauty rare is circled by black locks of curly hair, with crimson pollen patches that confess where thou art kissed by the fond cowherdess, with roseate lips as bimba berries soft, she kisses thee both many times and oft. May this vision within my mind remain, I care not for great and abundant gain. 6. Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasida Prabhu Dukkha Jalabdi Magnam Kripa Drishti Vristyati Dinam Batanu Krihanesha Mamagyame Vyakshi Drishyaha. Hail Deva, belly bound, the one adored, Almighty Vishnu, universal Lord. Be kind, O Master, and thy favor show, for I am steeped in ocean-like sorrow. Pour down, Master, thy gracious glance on me. Although I am wretched and unworthy, accept me and reveal to me the prize, not only in the mind, but to the eyes. 7. Kuveratmajau Vatthamurchaiva Yadvat Tvayamotitau Bhakti Bhajo Hitau Cha Tatha Prema Bhakting Swakang Me Prayacha Namokshe Graho Mesti Damodareha. Though Kuvera's sons were to trees constrained, though bound, release and love from thee they gained. That same gift, Lord, of love, do not refuse. I do not, Damodar, salvation choose. You have to bear with me a sec. The last one's not here, it's over somewhere else. But anyway, I can say the Sanskrit. Namaste stu damne spurat dipti damne Tvadiyodarayatha vishvaswadhamne Namo Ratikai Tvadiya Priyai Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tupyam. Hail to the bright rope wherewith thou wert bound. All hail to thy belly, wherein is found the universe expansive to appear. Hail to Ratika, whom to thee is dear. All hail to thee, the God from whom proceeds infinite and eternal playful deeds. Iti. That's it. Is that all right?
Oh, sorry, I need to unmute. All right.
Absolutely wonderful. Totally wonderful. People are asking for a document with the poems on it,
Okay,
the verses on it. So if you get that, you can send it and we'll put it in the chat box here. That was absolutely beautiful.
You know what?
That wonderful.
I can do that, Maharaj, because I have everything on an email and I can put that together, and that will take me like 60 seconds to do in the background. So I'll do that in a few minutes. But yes, I also want to say thank you so much. It was really beautiful. I in my previous life I had a degree in English literature. Well, I still have a degree in English literature. So I feel like I feel very appreciative of hearing such beautiful rhyme. So thank you so much.
Thanks. I'm really swept away. Thanks.
Such a pleasure. Whereabouts in the UK are you based, Prabhu?
I'm in Somerset,
We're in Somerset.
Shepton Valley.
Not so far. Nice.
Anyway, I don't want to interrupt the proceedings any further.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much. Oh, and there's beautiful commentary as well that Madam Mohan has put. So I'm going to just share it all, and then you can read through.
It's the same, you know. You're probably familiar with the contents of it because you have it. You have the commentary and the commentary of the commentary. But I just whittled it down to Sanatana Goswami's own thing as much as I could. And wherever he's quoted the Bhagavatam, I put that into rhyming couplets as well. So it's quite fun.
Beautiful. 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 Thank you, Prabhu. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. I think everyone really appreciates it. It was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Always invite me back another time.
Okay. When you've done another
one. I've done the whole 10th canto up to chapter 47.
Oh, wow.
The whole Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Samhita, wow. Loads of stuff.
Wow. Okay.
We should do some separate things. Yeah, we should. Yeah, we could do that maybe. Maybe we could do some separate readings. That would be nice.
Yes.
Just short things, you know. I was really just excited the other day because I finished chapter 46 and 47, where it's Uddhava going to Vrndavan.
Yes.
And I thought, well, you know, they say about the Ras Panchadhyay, the 5 chapters of the Ras Leela. It's like Panchapran, the 5 vital airs of the body of the Bhagavat. And I thought, well, what are these then? You know, when Uddhava goes to Vrndavan, it's even sometimes it seems more intense than the Rasa Leela chapter.
Well, that's one of the Geets. Chapter 47 is the 5th Geet. There's Venu Geet, Pranaya Geet, Gopi Geet, Yugal Geet, and Brahmara Geet.
Brahmara Geet.
Yeah, those five Geets.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was really good.
Okay. Thank you, Madan Prabhu. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Taranji, should I continue?
Yes. Do you want to introduce what you're speaking on?
Well, we're going to continue reading from Damodarastakam, where we were up to last time. And Tarunji, if anyone has any comments or questions as I'm reading, you can interrupt me and we can discuss them as I go through. So as I've said many times, this Astakam is it's eternally perfect. That means that the dynamic of it is extraordinary in the sense that we come from this very first verse, making the platform, this Namam Ishvaram Satchidananda Rupam. But Satyabrat Muni, in such an eager way, he doesn't linger even on the first line. He immediately jumps through to describing the beautiful earrings that are swinging on Krishna's divine face. And immediately he jumps into the Leela straight away in the first verse. This is giving us the dynamic initially that this greed is flowing very quickly. So all of these different conceptions are really packed into these 8 extraordinary verses and just culminating with the mood of submission to Sri Radhika, coming from a mood of dasya. Actually, Srila Gurudev describes that in one place that Satyabrat Muni was like a Jnani Bhakta originally, just seeing about the speciality of Krishna and his Aishwarya mood. But by his association, then he began to understand more of Brajendranandan Shyam Sundara and came to a conception of appreciating Sri Radhika. So the whole current is very, very enthusiastic. And when this is delivered by someone like my beloved Gurudev, he also injects this tremendous enthusiasm into the descriptions that he gives on each of the verses. So we got most of the way through the third verse, Iti drik swalilabhya, ananda kunde, swagosham nibjantam, akyai payantam, tadiyeshita dineshu bhaktya jitavam, puna prematastam, satavriti vande. So this Iti drik swalilabhya, ananda kunde, these pools of ecstasy. And my Gurudev, he's describing many different pastimes and leelas that the residents of Braj are drowning in. So I'm going to read from page 70. This is where we reached last time. And it's a description of Mahadev Shivji. So one day, Mahadev Shiv, the chief demigod, set off to see his supremely worshipful Lord, who had just appeared in Braj. Arriving at the gate of Nanda Maharaj's home, he sang loudly, Alaka, Niranjan, Alaka, Niranjan, and played his damru, a kind of hand drum. And there's a footnote here describing this phrase is used to beg alms in the name of Sri Bhagavan, or simply to make one remember him. It is a description of Paramatma, who is invisible, Alaka, and aloof from Maya, Niranjana. So this is how Lord Shivji is approaching the gate of Nanda Maharaj's home. Mother Yashoda came to the door when she heard him singing and playing his drum. But when she saw the appearance of this unusual yogi, she became afraid. He wore robes of tiger skin and a garland of human skulls. Dangerous serpents adorned his hands, feet, and neck. Of course, we know that the human skulls are all his previous wives, that he carries remembrance of them in the forms of their skulls on his neck. That's what the significance of the skulls is. And he held a tall, fearful trident by his side. His body was smeared from head to toe with ashes from a crematorium ground, and his thoroughly matted hair made him look ancient and even more dreadful. His carrier, Nandi, a massive bull, accompanied him. Seeing that the terrible-looking yogi was approaching her accompanied by Nandi, Yashoda became utterly terrified. Nevertheless, she asked him dutifully, "Do you want some alms? Just wait, and I will bring them for you." Mahadev Shankar replied, "Oh, mother, I have walked so far to come here from my house in Kailash. Just show me your baby. I just want to see your darling child." "Eat or drink whatever you like and then go," she said. "And do not play your damru so loudly. My child is sleeping." Sankarji said, "O innocent mother, I do not want your flour and beans or silk clothes and bags, nor do I want anything to eat, drink, wear, or rest upon. I have come to see your darling son just once. This is the only donation I need." Mother Yashoda hesitated and then said to him, "I am an adult, yet your appearance terrifies me. My darling boy is so young, he will become too afraid if he sees your form, so I will not show him to you." And she went inside the house. Sri Shankar, the foremost demigod, was not about to leave without seeing Sri Krishna. He sat down by the door and lit a ceremonial fire. "When your beautiful son grows a little older," he thought, "he will come outside to play and I will finally be able to see him. I will not return to Kailash without seeing him." So we see this sort of greed exhibited by Mother Yashoda to bind him. And we see this same greed, this unwavering Nishta in Sankarji. To this day, the place near Nanda's house where Mahadev Sri Sankar was sitting is known as Yogiya Kund. Mother Yashoda entered the house and found her darling baby boy crying loudly. Nothing she tried would pacify him, so she consulted her friends. A respected elder Gopi spoke. This is not an ordinary yogi. He is from the sacred mountains of Kailash. When your boy heard him playing his drum, he became afraid, and now he has started to cry more and more loudly. It would be wise to show him your dear son at least once. Seeing no other recourse but to show her son to the extraordinary yogi, Yashoda Mai placed Krishna in a black basket and covered all his limbs with black cloth to protect him from inauspiciousness. She anointed his eyes with thick black eyeliner and marked his forehead with a black dot. Then she reluctantly brought Krishna outside and allowed the yogi just a brief glimpse of him. To her astonishment, when she was turning to enter her house, she noticed that Krishna had stopped crying. Sri Sankarji, the king of mystics, spoke to her. Mother, I will light a ceremonial fire here and stay nearby. If ever your beloved child falls prey to some evil, just call me. I will chant mantras and ward off any evil effects with mustard seeds and salt, and he will be restored to health. Thereafter, whenever Krishna would cry, she would call the yogi from his dwelling place. So there's a beautiful song here that the Brijbasis would sing to describe the pastime of that yogi. The yogi came from Nanda Bhavan, Krishna's devoted mother. Yashoda Maya is calling you. Her dear son has come under an evil eye. Ward off its effect with mustard seed and salt. Stay here, yogi. Just stay here in Nanda Bhavan. Please live in Vraja forever. Whenever her darling son cries, come and give him your darshan. Thus, the life of that yogi became successful. So this is one pastime that Srila Gurudev is bringing out here. In his Padyavali, an anthology of verses written by many different acharyas, Srila Rupa Goswami quotes the following pastime. Then there's a long Sanskrit verse. I won't attempt to say it now. I'll just read the translation here. One night, Mother Yashoda was tenderly stroking Krishna and lulling him to sleep with a story. Once there was a king, she said. Krishna eagerly responded, yes, and? His name was Dasarath, she continued, and he had 4 sons. When they grew up, Vishwamitra took them to protect the area of his sacred fire sacrifice. Krishna murmured, yes, and? After they saved the sacrifice, Vishwamitra took them to Mithila. The king of Mithila, Maharaj Janak, had vowed to give his daughter's hand in marriage only to the one who could string Shiva's bow and break it, and not to anyone else. Again, Krishna murmured, Kings came from many far-off lands, she continued, but they all failed. Finally, Sri Ram strung Shiva's massive bow and broke it. Then Princess Stita was married to Lord Ram. Krishna murmured as she spoke, and whenever she paused, even for a brief moment, he eagerly inquired, Mother, what happened next? To carry out his father's order, Sri Ram had to enter the forest in exile, and Sita and Lakshman went with him. When they were residing at a place called Panchavati, the demon Maricha tricked Ram and led him into the forest. Meanwhile, back at their cottage, Ravan came and kidnapped Sita. Just hearing this, Sri Krishna, absorbed in the mood of Ram, sprang up from the bed crying, Lakshman, bring me my bow. Where is my bow? My bow. May Sri Hari's impassioned cries when he is absorbed in this mood protect you. So this is written by an unknown author in the Padyavali, quoted by Srila Rupa Goswami, this mood of Krishna in Ram Leela, even in the form of baby Krishna, Balya Leela, in Mother Yashoda's arms when he's going to sleep. One day, while Mother Yashoda was churning yogurt in an earthen pot, she attracted her darling son to her with sweet words. Then for a short time, she left to do something else. When Krishna's eyes suddenly fell upon the earthen pot, he saw the moon reflected on the surface of the yogurt. When Mother Yashoda returned, he repeatedly demanded, "Mother, I want the moon. Give me that toy." Mother Yashoda took a lump of butter from the pot and gave it to him. At first he became happy, but when he looked back into the pot, he saw that the moon was still there. Again, he began restlessly demanding it. Mother Yashoda said, "Look up, that is the moon." "I want it," he demanded. "There is poison on it," she said. Krishna asked, "How did it get poison on it?" "A long time ago, when the demigods and demons churned the great ocean of milk, poison came to the surface. That poison is on the moon. Did you see those black impressions on the moon? That is the poison. Tell me, who would want to play with that?" Hearing this explanation, Sri Krishna became frightened. Such are Sri Krishna's unlimited pastimes. He drowns the residents of Braj in the ocean of their sweetness, and he also drowns in that ocean. So this is the conclusion to the commentary on the third verse. Iti driksva lilabhya, drowning in the sweetness, the anand of these leelas. Now we come to the fourth verse. The fourth verse is very powerful. The fourth verse is like a break in Satyabrat Muni's meditation. He's just meditating on the pastimes of Mother Yashoda catching Krishna, binding Krishna. He's thinking of all the different pastimes in Braj, in Krishna's Balya Leela. But now he wants to make a statement to the Supreme Lord directly that he's not going to be asking for freedom or moksha. Varam deva moksham namokshavadim va nakanyam vrineham varisharapiya idam te vapu nata gopala balam sadame manyasya avristam kim anye. Oh, is Madan Mohan still there?
Right, he might be. Yes.
Madan, why don't you just read your translation? Read the poem for the fourth verse. Fourth verse. Got the
Very
fourth
nice,
verse.
Mahadev. That was great. What was that from?
The fourth verse.
What you just read there?
Yes.
It was very nice. And I was wondering where you read it from.
Where's it from? It's from Srila Gurudev's Damodarastakam book. Is that right?
Right.
Yes, yes. You have the fourth verse there?
Yep. Shall I read it?
Just read us. Yes, yes.
Okay. O God of boons, I do not seek from thee salvation even in the best degree, nor do I choose or any boon require. This, my dear Lord, is my only desire, that this thy form as the young cowherd boy may in my mind remain. What other joy with this blessing could equal or exceed? Indeed, I have for other boons no need.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'll read this translation just to support what you've just put in poetry. The supremely effulgent and playful divinity, I do not ask you for freedom from mortal suffering, the fourth of human goals, nor do I ask for the ultimate limit of freedom, residence in Vaikuntha, the abode of extraordinary concentrated happiness, nor do I seek any other benediction from you, even attaining bhakti characterized by Shravanam, Kirtan, etc. These are the Navada bhakti process. Even though as the supreme benefactor, you can easily grant all benedictions. O Lord of my life, may your beautiful form as Bala Gopal, a little cowherd boy in Braj, always remain visible within my heart. I have no use for any other benediction other than this. and your poetry fitted perfectly there. So now I'm going to read Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj's Digdarshani Tika, Bhavanuvad. Up until this point, Sri Satyabrat Muni has been praising Sri Bhagavan by describing the supremacy of his unique characteristics. Now in verse 4, beginning with Varam, and in verse 5, Sri Satyabrat Muni begins to pray to obtain his most cherished object. O Deva means either O supremely effulgent divinity, or O Lord who always loves to perform certain charming pastimes. Here, Vara Isat Api means even though you can grant any benediction, I do not ask you for freedom from mortal suffering. Moksha, the ultimate goal among the four goals of human life. Beyond the attainment of ordinary moksha is the attainment of the utmost limit of moksha, residence in your transcendental abode, Sri Vaikuntha Loka. That abode is comprised of unending concentrated bliss. I do not even ask you for residence in Vaikuntha, nor do I ask for Anyara Cha. The words Anyari Cha, others also, can be understood to mean either the other benediction attained by performing the celebrated ninefold system of devotional service, Navada Bhakti, beginning with the process of Shravanam, hearing about the Supreme Lord, or simply any other attainment generally considered worth asking for or considered superior by others. However, considering the word Iha, in this place, the meaning is, because I am in Vrndavan, I do not have the slightest desire to accept all these benedictions. So it's interesting to appreciate that Satyabrat Muni is, or my Gurudev is saying that because, or Srila Bhaktivedanta Keshav Maharaj is saying in the translation of Sanatana Goswami, that he's in Vrndavan, that Satyabrat Muni is in Vrndavan. The word Iha is also related to the latter half of the verse. Here, the progressive superiority of the three benedictions is self-evident. The Uttarakhand of Sri Brihat Bhagavatamrita clearly explains the superiority of residence in Vaikuntha over moksha. So now there's an explanation here. Previously, Sri Satyabrat Muni resolved to perform sadhan of Vaidhi Bhakti, characterized by Shravan and so forth. However, in this stanza, even the above said Vaidhi Bhakti is being discarded because it is devoid of the intense eagerness to serve Sri Krishna, which eventually results in a spurti of his beautiful form. Sri Satyabrat Muni has offered this special prayer through Kirtan Bhakti, saturated by intense attachment and eagerness to serve Raganugabhakti in order to bring about the sadhya of perpetually seeing such spurtis of Sri Bhagavan's beautiful form within the heart. This is because without the mercy of Sri Bhagavan, such a spurti will never occur. So now there's an annotation by Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. This is an addition. So he quotes a beautiful verse here. Vaikuntanam durlabam muktai sandra ananda chid atmakam nishkarma ye tutad bhakto labante sadhya evatat. Those who perform bhajan of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, devoid of any personal motive, nishkam bhaktas, immediately achieve the abode of Vaikuntha. That abode of Vaikuntha is the embodiment of concentrated happiness. It is made of transcendental cognizance. In other words, it is the concentrated embodiment of Brahm, absolute reality, in his aspect of transcendental consciousness. That abode of Vaikuntha is rarely achieved, even by liberated personalities. The deep meaning here is that those who propound oneness with the Absolute and arrogantly regard themselves as liberated souls can never attain that abode. Then there's another verse here. Tatra Shri Krishna Padabja Sakshat Seva Sukham Sada Bahuda Nu Bhavantaste Ramanti Dik Kritamritam. In Vaikuntha, the devotees who are free from all hankering, Nishkinchan Bhaktas, perpetually experience the variegated happiness of directly oh, how does that work? Seems to have a
Maharaj, it continues at the bottom of page 8.
Oh, got it. Thank you. Of directly serving Sri Krishna's lotus feet. By performing various pastimes with him, they become immersed in an ocean of bliss. The happiness resulting from Sri Bhagavan's service is the concentrated form of supreme bliss. Compared to this, the Amrita, the nectar of immortality, or the happiness of liberation, seems extremely insignificant. So now I'll come back to the text. I'll catch this sentence. So I'll go back to page 79 at the top. Here, the progressive superiority of the three benedictions is self-evident. The Uttarakhand of Sri Brihat Bhagavatamrita clearly explains the superiority of residence in Vaikuntha Loka over moksha, and the performance of Navada Bhakti, the celebrated ninefold system of devotional service, beginning with Shravanam, and even superior to that. This is also described in the following verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Karamam bhava svaprijanayi niryashu na stakch. Cheto ivad yadi nu te padayo rameta. Vachascha nas tulasavid yadi te nigri shobha. Purieta te guna gunai yadi karana randra. This is from the 3rd canto, 15th chapter. Sri Sanat Kumar and the other Kumaras prayed, O Lord, if because of the offense we made by cursing your devotees, Jai and Vijay, we have to take birth in an extremely condemned species, or even in hell, no harm, as long as our hearts and minds like bees are immersed in relishing the sweetness of serving your lotus feet. Our words are made beautiful by glorifying you, just as tulsi leaves are beautified when they are offered at your feet, and our ears are eternally filled with descriptions of your transcendental qualities. Then we do not care about where we take birth. In other words, may we eternally have the fortune of hearing Shravanam and singing Kirtan about you. So this is a prayer of the 4 Kumaras, very beautiful. This statement specifically demonstrates that regardless of where one resides as a result of his actions, even if he resides in hell, once he has attained final perfection or prema bhakti by appropriately performing the limbs of Navada Bhakti, such as Shravanam, he always experiences the fulfillment of residing in Vaikuntha. Sri Krishna may have asked, if you do not want any of these benedictions, then what is it you do want? To this question, the sage replies, O Master, may your Balagopal form in Vrndavan, which I have just described, always remain manifest within my heart. Although you are present as the Supersoul, the omniscient witness in the cave-like hearts of all beings, kindly remain manifest in my heart in such a way that you seem to be appearing directly in front of me, and in that way reveal to me the beauty of your entire form. As though Sri Krishna is personally addressing his devotee, he speaks thus, Aho, liberation, residence in Vaikuntha, and eligibility to engage in Navada Bhakti are also exceedingly worthy and rare benedictions. Why do you not accept them as well? In reply, Sri Satyabrat Muni says, Kim Anyai, of what use to me are these boons? In other words, Sri Satyabrat Muni says, although these attainments are eagerly sought after by others, they are of no use to me. So once you've had a spurti of Krishna in the way that Satyabrat Muni has described, everything else pales in the conditioned illusory world around us. Nothing else whatsoever has any value or significance at all. Once a spurti has been granted by the mercy of the Lord, everything else fades away. Sri Krishna is the essence of all bliss. If one attains him, then everything has been attained. However, the result of obtaining something as insignificant as liberation instead of one's most cherished form of Sri Krishna is only intense sorrow. So great sorrow to receive liberation. It's like we've been cheated. We've been cheated of the highest estimation to receive liberation. It is for this reason that Sri Satyabrat Muni has implied that all other benedictions are of no use. Now, in the following passages, Srila Sanatana Goswami reveals another meaning of Kim Anyay. Sri Bhagavan asks the sage, you may not want liberation and other boons, but why do you not accept the benediction of seeing me and conversing with me in any of my opulent four-armed forms, like Sri Narayan, a privilege greatly cherished by all. In other words, Vaikuntha Bhav, Vaikuntha Prem. So how high has the Utsaha risen in Satyabrat Muni's mind to speak like this? In this context, when Satyabrat Muni replies, he has no use for any other benedictions, he means, I will only experience the greatest bliss if your Bala Gopal form, the crown jewel of all beauty, remains forever manifest in my heart and not otherwise. In Sri Brihat Bhagavatamrita's Uttarakhand, we find the statements of Pippalaina Rishi. Therein, he extensively discusses the glories of beholding Sri Bhagavan within the heart, this Antardarshan. So there's a whole chapter in the Brihat Bhagavatamrita where Gop Kumar is moving through the different planetary systems, and they're saying to him, why do you need to see Bhagavan outside? You just look in your heart and he's already there. And Gop Kumar, initially, he follows that guidance, but then after some time, very quickly, he thinks, no, I don't just want to see Krishna in my heart. I directly want Sakshat Darshan. I want to see Krishna directly. In the previous stanzas, the sage has been singing the glories, stuti, of his Lord. Yet this stanza is apparently a prayer, pratna. However, even this prayer has culminated in glorifying Sri Bhagavan. The sage's prayer for inner vision of Sri Bhagavan shows that such vision is the highest goal. This should also be understood while considering the next verse. So we can appreciate the dynamic of this verse, the break, so to speak. This is verse 4. So we've come through 3 verses describing the Leela and the immersion in the mood of Bala Gopal. And now Satyabrat Muni, he's demonstrating his nishtha directly to Krishna, that he doesn't want moksha. He doesn't want Navada Bhakti. He doesn't even want Vaikuntha Prem. He just wants to see that Bala Gopal. So now my Gurudev's commentary. Up till now, Sri Satyabrat Muni, this is the Dig Darshani Vritti. Up till now, Sri Satyabrat Muni has been describing the sweet pastimes of Sri Krishna, and specifically the pastimes characterized by Vatsalya Ras. Consequently, his heart has been melting, and he is becoming fully absorbed in them. Sri Krishna is not especially pleased with the prayers offered by Lord Brahma and other demigods. On the other hand, if one sings about the pastimes of Sri Krishna's devotees, and especially about the pastimes of the Brijvasis, then Sri Krishna will not only be pleased, he will even be controlled by them. It's very interesting. Sri Satyabrat Muni then prayed, O Damodar, your mother has so much affection for you, and above all others, you are by far her favorite. She is the very embodiment of boundless Vatsalya Prem for you. With profound motherly affection, she cares for you and nurtures you, considering you to be her dependent child. This is important. Krishna is dependent on Mother Yashoda. This is the speciality of Vraja Prem, this dependence by Krishna on the Brijvasis' love for him. Whereas in Dwarka, all the Dwarkavasis are dependent on Krishna. So there's a big distinction here between Aishwarya Bhav and Madhurya Bhav. In Madhurya, Krishna is dependent on the Brijvasis. In Aishwarya Bhav, the Dwarkavasis, Mathuravasis, they're all dependent on Krishna. They see him as the super soul, the supreme Lord, and they want something from him. Whereas in Braj, they only know that they want to nurture him. Naturally, just as a mother's qualities ordinarily appear in her children, her motherly quality of forgiveness and compassion also appears in you. This is you with a capital U in Krishna. Kindly ignore my offenses, my sins, my anarthas, and my bad qualities, and just be pleased with me. Kindly just grant me your causeless mercy. So this mood, rising greed, is manifesting in the heart of Satyabrat Rishi. It is as though Sri Krishna, being pleased by Satyabrat Muni's prayer, had asked the sage to accept his desired boons. And now, in the beginning of this stanza, the sage says, Varam Deva Moksham, na mokshavadim va. I do not want liberation, or even the utmost limit of freedom, residence in Vaikuntha Loka, nor have I any need for any other such benedictions. Sri Satyabrat Muni prays, O Bhagavan, you are the original Lord of all lords and the source of everything. Therefore, you are capable of granting all benedictions. Nothing is impossible for you. Although liberation is the cherished attainment for one who has realized the temporary nature of worldly existence and has consequently become detached, I have no need for the benediction of attaining liberation. So most of us as practitioners, sadhaks, we have come to this path initially wanting liberation from the material sufferings and enslavements of conditioned life. This is what has motivated us to actually come to but Rupa Goswami, he explains that this desire for liberation, by hearing the sweetness of Krishna's devotees' affection and attraction to him, then one loses this desire for liberation, for moksha. And then even further, losing the desire for Vaikuntha Prem. So my Gurudev will explain this. There are 5 kinds of mukti described in the scriptures: Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, Sharsti, and Sayuja. The definition of mukti is found in Sankhya Shastra. Atyantiki dukkha nivritya eva mukti. The final cessation of all forms of misery suffered during the endless cycle of birth and death is mukti. Resolving to permanently end their suffering, some people aspire for Sayuja Mukti, merging into the impersonal feature of Brahm. This form of Mukti is actually offensive and is fully opposed to Bhakti. Previously, even the 4 Kumaras, Sri Sanaka, Sanandan, Sri Sanatan, and Sanat Kumar, desired this kind of Mukti. There's a footnote here that I'll read. This is the 6th one. In Srila Sanatan Goswami's Digdarshini Tika, the prayer from Srimad Bhagavatam 3.15.49, beginning with Karmam Bhava, is spoken by the four Kumaras during their first direct darshan of Lord Narayan at the gates of Vaikuntha. Needless to say, by the time they spoke that prayer, they had long since abandoned their desire for Sayuja Mukti. So we're understanding from Bhagavatam their purification. However, as Sri Satyabrat Muni prays for his desired boon, he discards the goal of moksha, Sayuja Mukti, with the words Varam Deva Moksham, and with the words Na Moksavadim Va. He expresses that he does not even want the unending, concentrated happiness of residing in Vaikuntha, the ultimate limit of freedom. We should carefully consider the meaning of moksha, moksavadim. Unlike Sayuja Mukti, the other four kinds of mukti are not entirely unfavorable to bhakti. Those who accept these four kinds of mukti exist within the realm of Vaikuntha in two classifications. One class, Swa Sukhashwarya Uttara Moksha, the desire for one's own happiness and opulence predominates. So even in Vaikuntha, there is this classification that the desire for one's own happiness and opulence predominates. Whereas the other class, Prema Seva Uttara Moksha, one's longing to render loving service to Sri Bhagavan, predominates over all other desires. So there's a big distinction there. Those who long for Prem Sevotara Moksha never desire the inferior Swa Sukhashwaryottara Moksha. The example of the four Kumaras illustrates this. When the four Kumaras experienced the fragrance of the tulsi leaves that had been placed upon the lotus feet of Sri Narayan, they utterly abandoned their previous desires for impersonal liberation. They at once became Jnani Bhaktas, devotees who have knowledge of the Lord's absolute divinity, and began seeking after Prem Sovatra Moksha. So this is a big distinction that my Gurudev is bringing out here. So I'll continue reading. Shuddha Bhaktas, however, have one pointed attachment for the loving service of Sri Krishna. They do not even aspire for Prem Sevotara Moksha, wherein some desire for one's own happiness still remains. When Sri Bhagavan offers such one-pointed devotees either of these classes of moksha, they never accept. Therefore, in Srimad Bhagavatam 3:29-13, Sri Bhagavan says, Diyamana Diyanam Na Granati Vina Mat Sevanam Jana. A pure devotee never accepts any kind of moksha, even if I personally offer it to him. The unalloyed devotee's only desire is to engage in loving service to Sri Bhagavan. In the history of Vritrasura, narrated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vritrasura rejected all varieties of moksha and prayed to be able to render service to the lotus feet of Sri Bhagavan. Nanaka prashtam nacha paramshtyam na sarva bhomam na rasab dipatyam na yoga siddhya apuna bhavam cha va samanjasa tva virahya kanshe. O ocean of all good fortune, apart from serving your lotus feet, I do not wish for anything. I do not wish to obtain the summit of heaven, Dhruvaloka, the Vaikuntha planet situated at the zenith of the material cosmos, nor the highest seat of power within the universe, the seat of Lord Brahma, nor do I have any desire for sovereignty over all the earth, nor sovereignty of all the planets down to Rasatala, which are flooding with sense enjoyment. I do not long for mastery over all the yoga siddhis, nor even the end of repeated birth and death. Quite a prayer, incredible prayer. In some way, Sri Satyabrat Muni is not even asking for a boon related to the utmost limit of moksha, residence in Vaikuntha. Sri Satyabrat Muni continues, Nacha anyam. Furthermore, I have no desire to obtain any other benediction. By the word anya, other, in this phrase, Sri Satyabrat Muni implies, I do not even want the result of performing the 9 kinds of Vaidhi-Navada Bhakti. Hearing about Bhagavan, Shravan, chanting his names, Kirtan, remembering him, Vishnu Smaranam, serving his lotus feet, Padasevanam, worshipping him, Archana, praising him, Vandanam, maintaining the attitude of serving him, Dasya, nurturing a friendship with him, Sakya, and submitting one's very self to him, Atmanivedanam. His response astonishes Sri Krishna, who then asks, the 9-fold system of devotional service, Navada Bhakti, has been abundantly praised in the scriptures, yet you do not want to accept even that? What then is your desire? So we can see how powerful this astakam is. It's even going beyond this Navada Bhakti consideration. It's going beyond Vaikuntha. This is why it's so much loved by the Vaishnavas, because it takes us well beyond any material conception whatsoever in absorbing ourselves in the moods and enthusiasm of Satyabrat Rishi. Then Satyabrat Muni utters his prayer. My only desire that your form as little Bala Gopal manifest in my heart forever. That small cowherd boy who is afraid of his mother and who is looking here and there with fearful, suspicious eyes. In the phrase, Vare shed apiya, Vare isat apiha iha, the word iha means here, or in this place. Thus the sage is praying, may your form as a little cowherd boy, which is present here in Vrndavan, appear within my heart. I have no need for any other benediction beside this. The form of Balagopal will only appear in one's heart as a result of prema bhakti. Sadhakas who perform Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam of Sri Krishna do not care if they go to heaven or hell. Their only desire is to engage in cultivating prema bhakti under the guidance of Tattvagyan Rasik Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas who have realized the absolute truth and who are expert in relishing loving emotions. It is therefore said, Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtano, Smityu Kramana Rasanam Nasinjyoja, Tishtem Braje Tanugami Janugami, Kalam Nayad Akilam Iti Upadesharam. This is from the Upadeshamrita, verse 8. The Bhakti Sadhaks should perform kirtan and smaranam, remembrance of Sri Krishna's name, form, character, and pastimes. Thus, they should gradually engage their tongues and minds, withdrawing them from absorption in sense objects, which cause aversion to Sri Krishna. Residing in Vraja-mandala, they should follow in the footsteps of Sri Krishna's associates who have deep attachment for him and fully utilize every moment of their time like this. This is the essence of all teachings. There was a time in, we were in Miami, and Bhaktivedanta Padmanabhan Maharaj was speaking this verse in front of Srila Gurudev. And he was saying that if you can't come to Braj directly, then you should come by mind. And my Gurudev just interrupted him quietly in the microphone and said no. And then Padmanabhan was a bit surprised. And then again, he said the same thing. And again, Gurudev just said no. And then Padmanabhan Maharaj, he looked at Gurudev and said, what then? And Gurudev was saying, if your mind is attracted to Braj, and your heart is attracted to Braj, the feet must follow. At some point, why should we just be satisfied with virtual Zoom parikramas? We should be developing an enthusiasm by these virtual Zoom connections to come to Braj. This is the purpose of our connecting here. At least more consciously be in Braj. I'm sure all of you, because I see that many of the same faces are here every day, are getting more and more attracted to Vrndavan by this Parikrama. And by this attraction, then so many truths will manifest in the heart and consciousness of the sadhaks. I'm sure many of you, if we were, I had facility to share all of our realizations amongst each other, we could share in the last few weeks many new realizations coming from our attraction to Braj and our development of this one-pointed fixation of devotional service to the Lord without any other desire. It's a high platform, isn't it? It's a very, very high stage. Our Gurudev used to say to us, the only thing that you can give to me, Gurudev would say, is to give me your independence. And if you think about that one, that's very high, to give your complete independence to Guru. So giving your independence to Guru means that you're giving everything to Guru. But this is the process. And by the potency of the Mahamantra and association with other Vaishnavas, gradually, this state of consciousness will be achieved. Otherwise, Krishna wouldn't say it. It wouldn't be saying these things unless it was possible for us to actually achieve this. Similarly, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Uddhav says, Eta param tanu britoi bhuvi gopa vadava, Govinda eva nikilatmani rudha bhava, vanchanti yad bhav piyo munayo vayamcha, kim brahma janma mabir ananta katha rasaya. The young wives of the Gopas, embodied here on earth, lead the topmost lives because they have Mahabhav, or full-blown, selfless love for Sri Govinda, the very soul of all. Their pure love is sought after by those sages who fear repeated birth and death, as well as by us. What is the use of being born, even as Lord Brahma, if one does not have any taste for hearing the nectarian descriptions of Sri Hari? Just an interesting point that many devotees comment that they didn't have any type of greed or hunger for Hari Katha before they came and met Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Their enthusiasm for Hari Katha had not really risen. But by constantly hearing these pastimes, Vikriditam Brajavadu Biyatam cha Vishnu, by hearing these pastimes, then some enthusiasm and some greed will manifest in the heart of the sadhak. This is the result of our reading and immersion in Srimad Bhagavatam. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the heart is melting towards devotion and attraction to Krishna, moment by moment. Vritrasura also prays that he may gain the association of the Vaishnavas and cultivate prema bhakti under their guidance. Mamotshloka jneshu sakyam samsara chakre brahmata sva karmabi tvam maya atmajo dara geshva ashakta chitasya na nata bhuyat. O Master of my life, I am not seeking liberation. I am not concerned if I must repeatedly roam about in this vicious cycle of birth and death as a result of my actions. However, wherever I go and in whichever species I take birth, please grant me the loving friendship of your dear devotees, for in their association I can cultivate prema bhakti. My Lord, I only pray that I will not have to mingle with those who, bewildered by your illusory potency, are always attached to their bodies, homes, children, families, and so on. How important is it for us to have the right association? If we're in the wrong association, with a materialist who has some faith in this material world, then our association is very unfortunate. But if we're with devotees who understand the temporary nature of this material world, then we're that atmosphere is completely conducive to progress in the path of bhakti. Although the position of Navada Bhakti is so elevated, Sri Satyabrat Muni has no desire for it. Why? Sri Sanatana Goswami reconciles this wonder. He explains that the fruit of one's practice of Navada Bhakti depends upon the nature of one's practice. When the 9 limbs of bhakti are performed according to Vaidhi Marg, the path of strict adherence to scriptural regulations based on fear, they enable the sadhak to attain Vaikuntha. Actually, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, there was one essay that was discovered in a trunk in Radha Damodar several years after he had departed. And in that essay, he's describing the Rai Ramananda Samvad. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, he describes the nature of the Vaikuntha residence of having an inferiority complex. This is his actual words that he describes. So in that realm of Vaikuntha, because we're feeling that the Supreme Lord is so exalted and so high, that makes me feel small and insignificant and inferior. So that inferior mood is not conducive for full-blown prema to manifest or love to manifest when we're feeling entirely inferior to the object of our prema. You understand? This is significant to appreciate. On the other hand, when the same limbs of bhakti are performed in rag marg, the path of spontaneous love, they enable the sadhak to reach the abode of Vrndavan, where they attain loving service to Krishna. So my Gurudev practically gave his whole life for bringing this appreciation out from the previous Vaidhi teachings. It is important to carefully understand the meaning of rag. Rag is defined as one's attraction to an object. If the soul's inherent capacity to be attracted is directed towards Sri Krishna, if he becomes the exclusive object of that attraction, it is called Ragatmika Bhakti. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad has defined Ragatmika Bhakti in the following verse: Iste Svarasiki Rag, Paramatsvata Bhavet, Tanmayi Yad Bhavet Bhakti Satra Ragatmikaudita. This is from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Rag is the unquenchable, loving thirst for the object of one's affection, that in turn gives rise to spontaneous and intense absorption in that object. Devotion that is performed with such rag is known as Ragatmika Bhakti. Spontaneous, intense absorption in the object of one's love is referred to as rag, and when Krishna Bhakti reaches this state of intense attachment, it is called Ragatmika Bhakti. Thus, in brief, Ragatmika Bhakti is the loving thirst for Sri Krishna. The topmost example of Ragatmika Bhakti is found in the deeply loving emotions that the Brijabasis feel for Sri Krishna, and devotion that is aimed at attaining the stage of Ragatmika Bhakti is called Raganugabhakti, Bhakti following in the wake of the Ragatmika Bhaktas of Ragatmika Bhakti. Since the devotion of one following the Vaidhi Marg is dependent on the dictation of rules and regulations, it is weak. On the other hand, Raganuga Bhakti is entirely independent, and therefore it is powerful by nature. So, this is now Srila Gurudev is going to go on to describe very beautifully the nature and depth and direction of Raganugabhakti Bhakti. And I think I'm going to stop here. Our time is basically concluded, and we can continue in this place in a couple of days' time. We'll come back to here. But this next section is very, very powerful. And if we can read this ourselves separately, this will give us greater comprehension when we come to read it together.
Which section are you referring to as the next section?
This is from page 89. There's 3 beautiful verses: Krishna Smaram Janam Kasya and Seva Sadak Rupena and Sri Krishna Gopal Hari Mukunda. These 3 verses Gurudev is going to unpack extensively. And also this Aidina Deyadrinatha Hey, this verse quoted by Madhavendra Puripad, and Hey Devi Dayata. Many verses now. Srila Gurudev will dive
so
into.
Is this a direct commentary of Srila Gurudev?
Yes.
Srila Keshav
Yes.
Maharaj? Okay.
Yes. And Srila Keshav Maharaj, he's just reiterating what Sanatana Goswami Pad has actually written in his Tika. It's called a Bhavanuvad, which means the translation of the Tika. So basically, Srila Bhakti Keshav Maharaj is translating the Tika of Sanatana Goswami, and he's adding 1 or 2 extra sentences for our comprehension. But my Gurudev is writing it's called the Dig Darshani, which means the deeper commentary on the previous commentary, Dig Darshani Vritti. Dig Darshani is the name of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj's commentary. So this Dig Darshani Vritti is a more in-depth appreciation of that commentary by Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. And he's just opening up. My Gurudev has come with a message for this world to all of us to appreciate the accessibility of Raganugabhakti Bhakti by the mercy of Mahaprabhu. And in these verses, in particular, this particular chapter, this particular verse, Varandeva Moksha, this really is a secure platform for describing the ultimate goal for the sadhak of Rag Marg. So we'll discuss that next time when we get a chance. Jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai.
We have a few.
A few questions?
Yes, we have a few questions. Just going to scroll back and find them. So someone asked, they wrote, I do not want bhakti or mukti, but also have no strong desire for bhakti. How to become more greedy for pure bhakti?
By hearing. Bhakti and mukti rejected are like the paths of Vaidhi Bhakti. If I'm constantly focusing on, well, I don't want this, I don't want that, etc., this is somewhat of a negative state of consciousness. It's almost like I'm battling with myself to restrict myself from material engagements, etc. I'm becoming somewhat like a yogi. A yogi wants to attain something, whereas the bhakta, he just wants mercy from the Lord by having the ability to fall in love with Krishna, basically. And how do you fall in love with Krishna? By hearing about his sweet qualities. This verse, Vikriditam Brajavadubiyatam ja Vishnu Shradan Vitu Nushrunyad Artha Vranyamya Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Karamam Vidrogam Asavapinoti Acharena Dira. This verse fully, it's at the end of the Rasa Panchadaya chapter. And Shukadev, he's saying that bhakti will arise once we have heard. First, the process is hearing. Shravanam. And then once we have heard, then speak, Kirtan. And then Smaranam will come. To answer that question, unless we're hearing about the pastimes, this is why this Vraja-mandala Parikrama is so beneficial for us, because in every single place we go, we're hearing different pastimes. It's Leela after Leela after Leela. Even this Damodarastakam is, the background is fully the Leela in this Astakam that we're going through. The whole backdrop is the Leela of Mother Yashoda's intense determination and affection for her child, not for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That has been forgotten about. We're just immersing ourselves in a mood of Mother Yashoda's intense Vatsalya Prem for Krishna, and Krishna's reciprocation with that. So this mood, on a very loving, sweet level, it doesn't really have anything to do with the rules and regulations, etc., and the fearful nature of Vaidhi Bhakti that we will live in. If we have some sort of agenda in this world, if there's something that we want from this world, reputation, if we want wealth, if there's something lingering, some material desire lingering, then Krishna says, Sokama Sadibir Bhaktir. He says that if this any desires that is left in the heart, then how can bhakti manifest? But those desires go away when we hear about the sweetness of Krishna. That's when an atmosphere of sweetness will come into our consciousnesses. Oh,
I'm trying to write that down. Can I ask the next question, Maharaj?
yeah.
I'm asking all your questions, by the way, so far, but I'm trying to ask them in order. So I'm just trying to find Ramananda Prabhu's question. It's a little way back. Why does he not want Navada Bhakti?
Because he's in a process. He's rejecting everything. It's too straight-laced, we can say in simple language. It's too much governed by fear. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam. It's like predominated by fear rather than greed and enthusiasm based. The quality of Ragmarg, as we understand, is greed and enthusiasm. And that quality to be dominant, then no fear for anything can be there. It's described in the Bhagavatam. It's described in the Bhagavatam how Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is describing on the path of Ragmarg, one just runs without even looking where his next step is going to be. But on the path of Vaidhi Bhakti, he's very cautiously looking at each step that he takes to make sure that it's secure. So both paths have to go for the neophyte sadhak. We have to be carefully following the rules and regulations, but internally, we are cultivating this vision of Ragmarg. Externally, we are most assuredly following the rules and regulations. We're following Ekadasi today, for example. We rise and we do our, Vrndavan, etc. We chant our Damodarastakam daily, etc. We do all these things, but simultaneously, we are hungry to absorb more and more of the sweetness and speciality of the Vraja Leelas, the Vraja pastimes. This is our desire and hope. And Krishna will always make that facility. If I'm guiding my journey correctly. Srila Gurudev used to say many times, if you've got a pot and you want to get the air out of the pot, then how do you do that? You put something else into it. So we put these leelas into the consciousness to replace the desires for the fearful desires that are there with Vaidhi Bhakti.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. The next question, someone is asking, what is the difference between Lopa, and Loliya?
Same.
They're the same. Okay.
Same. Greed. Greed. Someone is asking about the 9 limbs of bhakti being transferred to Raganuga. Lalita Saki from Alachur, she's asking that. So this has been described very clearly, that all in Shravanam. So what am I hearing? If I'm hearing just the principles of Bhagavad Gita exclusively, and of the prohibitions, etc., on the path of Vaidhi Bhakti, then my whole purpose or focus will be ultimately for attaining liberation. That will be my goal. Actually, in Bhagavad Gita, we should appreciate that the goal that is, or Bhagavad Gita ends at Sharanagati. That's the conclusion, basically, of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, the commentaries take us further, but the principal teachings of Krishna, Sarvadhamam Prityaja, Mamekam Sharanam Braja, surrender unto me, abandon everything. This mood of Sharanagati, but Sharanagati we know is the threshold of bhakti, because Sharanagati is still about me. It's still about the practitioner. I am surrendering, rather than the activity that I'm going to perform once I've surrendered. So the actual act of surrendering is like a process, but the surrendering isn't the principle. It's just like Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shri Maharaj gives the example of getting dressed. We have to get dressed to walk on the street in life, but the purpose of life is not to get dressed. Nevertheless, we still have to get dressed, but that's not the aim and object of life. So we have to be Sharanagat, we have to be surrendered initially, but that's not the aim and object of life. Just to be Sharanagat, that's not the aim and object of life. The aim and object of life is to find this current, this natural current that's already residing in my heart, to rekindle, to revive that natural current. Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhavsa sadhanabhida nitya siddhyasya bhavasya prakatamiti sadhite. Revive that current of devotion to Krishna. So if I'm hearing, for example, teachings like that, that's going to inspire a direction, a focus on rag rather than vaidhi. So all of these 9 limbs of bhakti, we can relate them individually to the path of Raganugabhakti. Shravanam, Kirtan. Which Kirtans are we going to sing? If we're singing Namami Nandanastakam, if we're singing Nandanandamastakam, Kripakataksha, if we're singing these sorts of Kirtans, Radhe Jai Jai Madhavadaitai, then these kind of Kirtans are going to bring our consciousness more into contemplation and remembrance of Sri Radhika, etc., as opposed to other Kirtans. Lalita Saki, does that give you something? I hope that gives some indication. There's a long answer for that, but time is not so much there now. But that could take a whole 40, 50 minutes to unpack entirely. But principally the verse, Seva Sadak Rupena, Siddha Rupena Chatrahi, this has to be considered, that I have my external bodily activities, Seva Sadak. As a sadhak, I'm performing seva in this world, copious seva, to get the mercy of Krishna. Seva Sadak Rupena, Siddha Rupena, but with my internally perfected body, then I'm also performing my internal seva. to Radha and Krishna by hearing the sweet pastimes in Vrndavan in particular. Okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, Achyutananda Prabhu.
Yeah, in the 9 forms, there's also Sakya, to be a friend. Friendship, how does that expressed in Vaidhi Bhakti? That sounds very ragatmika.
Well, I can still be friendly in a mood of being favorably disposed. It's like Krishna is saying to Arjuna, you know, as a friend, I am sharing these confidential truths to you. But initially, what is the truth that he's sharing? He's sharing the truth of Sharanagati. That is the truth he's sharing in friendship, in Sharanagati, to come to the next stage. But to have that bosom friendship with the Parikas and with Krishna, even in Dwarka, what is the, is there any obstruction to friendship with Krishna? Yes. The friendship in Dwarka is not at all the same as the friendship of the Sakhas in Braj. That Sakya Bhav in Dwarka is not the same as the Sakya Bhav in Madhurya Ras, not at all the same. So there's a distinction in friendship, consideration of friendship. You answer me this question yourself. What do you consider, Achyutananda Prabhu? Where is Achyutananda? Achyutananda. What do you think, Achyutananda?
I don't know.
Of course, you must have some understanding.
No, I can understand. No, one thing is
No, the distinction. What I've said is correct. What I've said is correct.
In Vaidhi Bhakti, we offer a bhog to Krishna and take the remnants. In Goloka, you can take a bite out of the fruit and put it right in Krishna's mouth. Oh,
Right.
Here's a good one.
Yes.
I found a good one. Krishna, here's a good one for you. You can taste it first. But
So there's distinctions in friendship. There's distinctions in Sakya. Like I said, in Dwarka. Yes, formal friendship. And then there's, you know, loving friendship.
okay.
There's 3 gradations described in Jaiva Dhamma. I think it's in the 21st or 22nd chapter. It's called Bhagavat Prapti Abhilas, that I'm performing my service to Krishna in a mood of submission to him. Bhagavat Prapti Abhilas. And then there's the second one is Bhagavat Anukul Abhilas. I'm doing it, my service favorably towards Krishna. There's a distinction. And then the third one is Sohard Abhilas. This is when I'm performing my devotion to Krishna in friendship. This becomes even more thick. So in all of these considerations, there is gradation and gradation and gradation. And as you described in the Leela, yes, they're offering the bhoga to Krishna in Dwarka, and then they're taking that. But in Braj, Krishna, he's pushing it within their mouths. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah,
I
had a question for earlier.
Go ahead, Tom.
Madhu Smita also has a question, I can see. My question was, why does Shiva wear the skulls of his previous wives around his neck?
To remember them. To honor them. Each time he looks at the skull of Bhavani, he's thinking, oh, that was such a nice Leela we had together. So, like we, you know, this is what to honor them. It's probably not what we would do, but Shivji is an Avadut personality. What does Madhusmita have to comment?
Oh, only that, I mean, I don't know if I was fully concentrating properly, but in terms of friendship in Sharanagati, there's no Sharanagati in Braj.
No, that's what I explained.
Sharanagati is part of Vaidhi Bhakti. So there isn't any parallel really between the friendship and Sharanagati and the friendship moods in Braj.
His question wasn't about Sharanagati and Sakya. His friendship was about just friendship. His question was about friendship.
Right, okay.
He didn't put the two together.
Ah, okay.
You put the two together.
Right,
to make it interesting question. No.
Okay.
They're quite separate.
Okay, what was the question then?
His question was friendship. What is the nature of friendship in Ragmarg? You know, friendship is there. Friendship
yes, well, the cowherd boys are in Ragmarg. They're all in Rag.
Yes.
Yeah.
He answered the question himself.
Ah, okay, all right. Sorry. Space out.
No. He answered it beautifully. When Krishna is offered the boga in Dwarka.
I saw that. Yes, he's putting it in his mouth. Yeah.
Yes. So that's the nature. It's distinctions. This is what our Gurudev taught us constantly, these distinctions between Vaikuntha Prem and Dwarka Prem, Ayodhya Prem, Mathura Prem, and Braja Prem.
Yeah.
Repeatedly.
Again and again, yeah.
Yes, always.
And also
always.
that the friendship mood, the Sakya Bhav in the gopis is actually greater than the Sakya Bhav of the Sakas.
Oh, yes. Yes. Achyutananda is waving again.
Okay, I'll mute myself because I've just...
Thank you, Madhusmita. Thank you,
right.
Madhusmita.
All right.
You've always got words of wisdom.
No. The thing is, I spaced out a bit, so I wasn't concentrating.
No, missing your company here.
The question was, and you answered it, was how is Sakya in Vaidhi Bhakti? And that you answered.
Yes.
Yeah, we know how Sakya and familiarity is like.
These are really important topics to contemplate and consider. We have to really dive in there to really catch that. It comes from that wonderful analogy that in Raghuvarman Chandrika, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur gives of the Aishwarya, the salt in the glass, being very salty. That Aishwarya is there anywhere outside of Braj. But in Braj, there's so much more Aishwarya, but there's so much immensity. No, there's so much more Aishwarya in Braj, but there's such an immensity of Madhurya that it submerges the Aishwarya. The Aishwarya is there. You understand what I said?
There's an example. When Shamarani was reading and then painting, for instance, in Ananda Vrndavan Champu, it's described that the trees and the fruits are gems and jewels. And she asked Narayan Maharaj, should I paint them like gems and jewels? He said, no, you paint them like fruits and flowers and water.
Yes. I was just reading today that the sadhak may perceive briefly jewels and all types of opulences in Vrndavan. If he lingers on that, then actually he'll leave Vrndavan, because in Vrndavan that vision can be there. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur writes about it, the jewels and the beautiful paved roads, etc., the Chintamani. He writes about that, but that is only like a momentary spurti, so to speak. And then we start to see the opulence of the simple natural environment, which is described by many personalities. That opulence is there.
So Maharaj,
yes, sir.
We're hearing so many of these wonderful pastimes and so much of the philosophy behind, and we're hearing that, but how do we transfer it to seriousness? I've always asked Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev, how do we become serious? Because we may hear and hear and hear, but somehow that, we're, until we become truly fixed to say this, to the understanding of that this is where I'm going. There's no, we bought a one-way ticket and our whole desires and our everything that we do is moving that direction. Because we see here in the material world, a lot of times where, it's like you're a weekend warrior, or you're very strong, and the next day you're out, you're working, you're doing this and that, and the determination waxes and wanes. So how do we become very serious about, not pursuing the path, but serious about the development of that surrender to Krishna?
I would say initially just being totally regulated with your mala. Even if you chant 5 or 10 or 15, 20 rounds a day, whatever, if that is completely fixed in a sober, grave way, that in our day, that is really the foundation of our day, then gradually that is going to increase and grow when our natural enthusiasm by hearing these types of topics, our enthusiasm will grow to appreciating more and more of the speciality and sweetness of the transcendental world. Yes, I must have this transcendental wake up. So then that resolve will gradually, it's a process, isn't it? It's a process through time. But I would say, to answer your question, initially, it's just the regulation of the chanting, which is going to bring gravity to the consciousness. Because really that's what you're saying. When the consciousness becomes grave, when it's not excited all the time by various material allurements. I mean, we are so much open when we have these mobile phones, etc., just at our fingertips, to going anywhere with the consciousness. Just even a clip for 5 minutes, for 5 seconds of some frivolous type of activity can lead the consciousness astray. So we have to become resolved. Do I want this in this birth, or am I still going to be flirting with the material energy? How long will I flirt with the material energy? How long will I carry that, allow that attraction to distract me? Yes, we have to get serious. I think this 30 days in Vrndavan, 30 days on Kartik Parikrama, just the regularity of our meetings together, I'm sure is very conducive for the consciousness to become more grave. There was a time when I asked my Gurudev, we were translating the Bhagavad Gita, and I asked him what was the meaning of Stita Pragyan. This word Stita Pragyan, it means solid, fixed. And I wanted some impression from my Gurudev about Stita Pragyan. And he was sitting on the floor at the time, and he just leant forward and he made himself look like a mountain. And he stayed like that for about a minute and a half. He didn't move a muscle. This is the meaning of Stita Pragyan. This is a very grave state of consciousness, a very steady, when you're not going to be knocked off your path. You're not going to be distracted from your focus. When you're nishta, Srila Bhakti Rakshak says, the stage of nishta can be appreciated to have been reached when one cannot withdraw his mind from Krishna. He doesn't know how to take his mind away from Krishna. So anything that comes in averse to that, I completely reject it instantly. I don't give it any time to play with it, to allow it to enter my consciousness, to distract me. And the strength to do that comes in our practice of Nam initially. And that Nam will lead into Smaran, remembrance of Krishna's pastimes. Someone's saying it's the chance of a lifetime. Yes, we have to realize, especially now as the suffering intensifies in the material world. Today I was praying deeply to Srila Gokishore Das Babaji at his samadhi here, and he had an expression of complete compassion towards the people of this world, so strong. And it reminded me of that pastime of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada when my friend was driving him in King's Cross in Sydney. I related it the other day, and he was seeing all these people going to work. My friend was sitting in the front seat, Chidahari, and he looked in the rear vision mirror and tears were streaming down Prabhupada's face. How can we save them? How can we save these distracted people? How much enthusiasm do we have to save these people's consciousnesses, to bring their hearts to a noble place of contemplation where they can be thinking about God? Yes, there are many godly people. I know in America, you know, they talk about God, Jesus, etc. But how can they come into a more sober place? And it's mercy that is needed. Sukriti, isn't it? Sukriti has to be, you know.
Yes.
Today we are incurring Sukriti by just following Ekadasi. I mean, we're in the darkest depths of Kali Yuga, and yet we're following Ekadasi. Krishna is so happy. Krishna is so pleased that these conditioned souls, and you know, there are so few of us doing it, really. It's not, it seems sometimes when we're looking at a Zoom program, oh, the whole world's following Ekadasi, but they're not. You know, it is just a few. It's not the whole world.
So you have to be able to hear first, and that's in that. So in the preaching,
do you
mission,
want to hear? It all comes from desire.
Christianity and others,
it comes from desire.
Yeah,
it's desire.
But I'm talking about preaching outside. I'm talking about preaching. I'm talking about not internally the desire, but for the compassion for seeing, you know, so much suffering in this world. Then, you know, a lot of times to wake a person up who doesn't want to be woken up is very, very difficult. And that's the appreciation I was having for Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev, you know?
Yeah. You can't wake someone up if they don't want to be woken up, right? If they're really stubborn and they don't want to be woken up, what can you do?
Yep.
We can just wake ourselves up in the meantime more, so that we are awakened. By that example, other people will become inspired. Madhusmita, you have anything to say and comment? I know she does have. Unmute her, Taran.
Okay. And then I think Brat and Sylvester.
Okay, I'm awake now. No, Maharaj, I'm just absolutely relishing this whole Zoom Parikrama, and you know, listening to you is saving me right now. It really, really is such a blessing. My heart is actually burning and aching. The fact that I'm not there with you at this time like I normally would be. And yeah, and you mentioned this this terrible time in Kali Yuga, and I was just, you know, saying yesterday how just like, you know, Narada Muni, he wanted the babies of Devaki to be killed as quickly as possible, so that Krishna would appear sooner. So it's like the demons at the moment, the worse they get, the more demoniac they become, the better, because the quicker they will, the quicker they'll destroy themselves, and the quicker Mahaprabhu will actually reveal more and more about, you know, Danya Kali Yuga.
Bring it on, bring it on.
Yeah, bring it on, because they're just shooting themselves in the head, in the foot, in the chest, everywhere. And Mahaprabhu is just waiting. He's just waiting, like, okay, guys, who's on my side? Who's in my team? He doesn't care which camp we belong to. Like, are we on board with Mahaprabhu's plan for Kali Yuga, or are we going to just be a fence sitter, or are we just going to be injected with crap or whatever? but he's rallying the forces, and there's exciting times to come. 100%.
Yeah, it's interesting, Mahabodhi's reflections in connection with this. Yeah, were you saying, Mahabodhi, also?
No, well, I was going to let you finish if you want, because I just did some programs here in West Virginia, and of course we're close to Vrndavan, and lots of people came. So I'm thinking it's not only waking up those outside misfortunes, it's like waking up the devotees who are being led astray by even their own leadership. I mean, they banned chanting Jai Radhe, they banned chanting Jai Srila Prabhupada. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, how do you follow such leadership? So I was preaching against it, but I mean, like, one thing is to wake up people outside, but to wake up devotees that are also just, I would say, almost innocently following a corrupted leadership. It's like, that's whole nother, platform where, it's coming as like, all you can do is preach the truth and preach from your own heart. But this is happening more and more and more, where, like, instead of following our Gaudiya Vaishnavism, they start following the so-called scientists and government leaders as their authorities, and then their leaders are doing the same thing, avoiding what Srila Prabhupada said, avoiding what our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya.
So this is very good. This is very
astray.
good. This is very good, Prabhu, because it's actually polarizing the devotees simultaneously as it's polarizing the whole population of the planet. Who is sincere? Who actually wants to walk in this path? What is the, I'm not sure how, I think we're running pretty late right now.
Just one comment here. One comment in Krishna book on page 27 of on page 27 of Krishna book, Prabhupada writes that Krishna comes, or Krishna appears, to kill the followers of the demoniac leaders. He doesn't say the demoniac leaders. He actually says to kill the followers of the demoniac leaders. So we're really, really careful who we follow. Yeah, we follow the BBC.
Very interesting.
Interesting. You can see yourself, page 27. Have a look.
Thank you. Sorry to cut you off there slightly, Malusmita. I just want to ask this one question, because someone else also asked important question. And don't worry too much about time, Maharaj, because Yashoda's not here again. So
Shamali's sitting very close to the screen there. I think she's probably got something to say too.
So Madhura and Sarveshri asked, has anyone asked or mentioned why we are not doing Ekadasi and Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj's disappearance on the same day?
Very interesting question, Madhu. I was thinking the same thing, because he departed on Ekadashi, and it's because of the tithi. It's because of the difference in the tithi, that's why. Where is Madhu? But this is all I could understand. I thought the same thing, Madhu. He's described as he leaves on Uttana Ekadasi today, but we celebrated his disappearance day yesterday because of the different tithi. And Ramananda Prabhu was saying today is like Mahadwadasi, I think he was mentioning today. He was saying the...
I thought maybe it's Mahadwadashi or something like that, but I just remember in Kartik then Srila Gurudev would always emphasize that this Ekadashi we can do, like extra austerities and meditate on Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj and his Vairagya. And I remember Gurudev saying one year nobody should eat until 4 p.m. or something. Do you remember? And so it's always been, for me, it's always been like tied together, these 2 days.
Yes, me too.
But in India, it's the same. It's that they're separate. They're like Ekadashi one day.
Separate today. Separate this year.
Yes, not this Western calendar. Okay. Anyway, just.
I was just talking to someone in Vrndavan though, and they're celebrating Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj's disappearance day today.
Oh.
Anyway. So they're having a festival in Varshana, and they're celebrating that Ekadashi today. So, but I definitely think that the tithi has sort of like overlapped in some way.
Yeah. Okay. I just wondered if there was any other reason, but I totally accept that. Thank you, Maharaj.
Dandavats, Madhu. Good to see you.
Dandavats.
Haribo.
I think we might have one more question, Maharaj. Today, everyone's getting in their questions, but because Yashoda's not here to ask all of his questions, everyone's separation from questions manifested in a lot of their own questions, it would seem.
Let me just add one more thing, Tarun, to Madhabrat's question, that they are celebrating here today the appearance day of Srila Bhakti Dvaita Madhav Maharaj. They're celebrating that appearance day today. On Ekadasi today, they're celebrating it. So, anyway. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Tarun, I cut you off.
No worries. Barbara Tarini, Didi, do you have a question?
Yeah, but can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, on the different TTs, when I was staying at Gopinath Bhavan, we had 3 different schedules, or 4. There was the one that went with Navadweep. There was the one that Gurudev said a certain person should set the dates for Gopinath Bhavan. We had the Vrndavan calendar and one other one. Oh, the one that we get Pure Bhakti online. So so it's very confusing to me.
We always have a lunar consideration and we have a sun consideration, you know. We can make them either calendar. We can reference from the sun or from the lunar perspective. I don't understand this, perhaps Budara Prabhu. He's the astrologer.
This is the lunar. These are 4 different lunar calculations. So every people were picking and choosing which one to follow.
Well, we always just try and follow our leaders, you know, who are there, and hope that Krishna will cover us. What else can we do?
In Gopinath Bhavan, we had explicit instructions to follow one particular calculation. So that was what we followed.
Okay. Achutananda has a comment.
We'll end it on a high note. It's such a funny. A devotee came up to Prabhupada's room with his midday meal, and he brings it over to Prabhupada's picture and starts saying his Gayatri. Prabhupada said, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm offering it to you, Prabhupada." He says, "I'm here. You offer it to me. You're offering it to my picture." But that's a Vaidhi Bhakti versus...
Perfect example. Perfect example.
Yes. Good example.
I had a similar experience. I had a similar experience with Prabhupada as his guard, and someone didn't bring the cookies in for the darshan that I was running. So I went back and I stole the sweets and stuff from in Vrndavan from Radhasam Sundar, and I offered my prayers. I'm sorry, you know, but I'm taking this to your pure devotee, so I'm probably paying for that now. But anyway, I took it to the Prabhupada. I had covered it when I got there. Now I was trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to offer these 3 prayers and get down? There was a whole room full of people, and Prabhupada just looked at me like, "What kind of crazy disciple is this guy?" He just said, "Lift off the cover." So it lifted off the cover. He just looked at it. He goes, "Distribute." And I go, "Oh, it's like that, you know." So yeah, in our youth, that was, you know, then later, because I had so many other opportunities after, I would just let Prabhupada see it if he wanted to see it or taste it first, whatever, before I distributed it. But yeah, the same kind of Vaidhi, you know, consideration.
Good. It's all lessons.
I have a question for Mahabodhi. How are you preaching? Are you preaching to Iskcon at the temple? Are you?
No, they don't let me preach to the temple. I do programs because everyone knows me here. I like just on Friday I had like 50 people come over, mostly Iskcon, and then some that are, you know, are in Gaudiya, and you know, and I just preach and I just tell the truth. And it's getting more and more and more, but they won't let me preach the temple, obviously. But what happens is I did preach at Prabhupada's palace, and there are more and more people are requesting that I do that. So I don't know. We'll see what the future gives. But I'm sort of an antithesis to their preaching. I had like Jayadvaita Swami over here, and we argued, why are you making these rules? You can't chant Radharani's name, you can't chant Prabhupada's name. And we had this huge debate. I mean, and like they put this in the temple rooms, and so many people that are asking me questions now. So it's I'm the the balancing platform for those that are following Iskcon. So they're getting a little worried about me now.
Okay.
Good.
Mukunda from Germany about the Vaidhi, and Mukunda from Germany put in a comment that Chaturvidha Bhajante, there are 4 kinds of people who approach Krishna, either for wealth. There are no atheists holding lottery tickets. So there are 4 kinds of people who come to Krishna. So we see that. I like to tell people, Christians and others, you think of God as an old man with a beard, and that's okay. But we worship Krishna. We worship that God when he was 16. What do you think he looked like when he was 16? Start to think. It all comes from, that is idolatry. When you don't know the form and you create a form, that's idolatry.
That's what I like. It's accurate.
Comes from that Sistine Chapel, that picture of God and Adam, with the spark gap there. That painting on that God is a big old man with. Prabhupada said, he's eternal, so by now he must have grown a long beard. Prabhupada put it that way.
Yeah. Okay, I think really time has gone for me anyway. Shamali, did you have a question? You were sitting there very patiently in front of the screen. Oh, you didn't have. Okay. Okay. Okay, Tarun, any other direct question come, or should we just close it now?
No, I think we can close now. So thank you very much. Oh, Shamali Didi is raising her hand.
You're Haribol.
Haribol, I don't know if I can unmute. Can I unmute? Can you hear me?
You're unmuted. Yes, I can hear.
Oh, okay. And yeah, no, I guess I already put it in the chat. I was just really touched when I was listening to you speaking again on the 24th day, and you were talking about the Damodarastakam giving us it's like the passcode, really, to the chanting, for the mantra to appear, to the spurtis to appear, or the pastimes to flow through the mind or the heart, however it would be, because I haven't seen this, so I can't. But I just think that the obeisances to the Guru giving you that, you were talking about how do you develop the greed, and I really think it's really that connection to Guru always gives us that.
Very good.
That will come.
Yes. This is why we sing that Damodarastakam every single day, because we need that greed. Yes. Very good. Perfect, Shambhali. Nice reminder, yes. Guru.
Well, no, you said it. Just reiterating what you said.
You brought it back. Yeah. Good. Okay.
Dandavat,
I think Dandavat, Shambhali. I think Ramananda is actually, I've just realized that many of you have been fasting, and to break your midday fast, you're 40, 50 minutes over already. How are you tolerating that in England? I've already broken mine.
To tolerate. I mean, personally, I was completely distracted by all the interesting comments and questions of everyone. But yes, I guess probably people, Maharaj, probably the devotees in the background got some water and such while we were speaking. But yes, Ramananda has a bowl of buckwheat pasta waiting. Do you have one for me as well? I'm gonna drive over once we're done. I love buckwheat pasta. Well, I might actually go out and buy some. Okay. Anyway, I'm really getting distracted now. Okay. Thank you very much. I want to especially thank everyone for their questions and comments today. It became very interactive towards the end and a lot of very interesting points and considerations. It's really amazing to hear everyone's questions and what people in different parts of the world are doing in terms of preaching Krishna consciousness. Really incredible. So thank you so much. This evening, we will be talking more about Ekadasi with Sripad Vaikanas Maharaj. And then tomorrow, we'll be back for one of our final Parikrama days, where we're going to Varshan and visiting all the places in that area. So that's a really incredible opportunity and not to be missed. I believe Sripad Nemi Maharaj will be there as well tomorrow. Yes.
Yes, he'll be speaking on Sankari Kaur and Chiksoli and Gaharvan Parikrama and Vilasgar, Manga, Danga, Muri, Murkuti. So these are very, very confidential places tomorrow. It's a big parikrama tomorrow. Then we have the Shivji temple, and we have Pilipoka, Uchagan, and Sakigiri Parvat, and then even Surya Kund at the end. So actually, it's a huge day tomorrow. I think everyone is doing really well. You know, we've got 4 more days left. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4 days left? We're doing really well. Congratulations to everybody. Okay, Tarun.
Okay, so we'll unmute Ramananda Prabhu and he will close with Kirtan. Ramananda, say something so we know we can hear you.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Haribol.
Okay, we can hear you.
Good. Don't want to do that again. I watched it back when you were speaking to me and I couldn't hear you because I was singing on top of it. It was fun. If the desire to worship Sri Radha does not arise, then your worship of Krishna goes in vain. We cannot conceive of the sun devoid of sunlight. Similarly, we cannot accept Madhava separate from Radha. One who worships only Madhava is ignorant, and one who disrespects Sri Radha is simply conceited. Do not ever associate with such persons if your heart longs for the loving playfulness of Brajaras. If you consider yourself to be the maidservant of Srimati Radhika, then very quickly you will attain Kana of Gokul. We know that Brahma, Shiva, Narad, the personified Vedas, and Narayani, Lakshmi Devi, all worship the dust of Srimati Radhika's lotus feet. The revealed scriptures declare that Uma, Rama, Satya, Sachi, Chandravali, and Rukmini are all Radha's expansions. Bhaktivinoda begs at the lotus feet of those whose wealth is the service of Sri Radha. Radha bhajane jadi mati nahi bhela, Krishna bhajana tava akarana gela, ata parohita suraj nahi jani, Radha virahita Madhav nahi mani. Kevala Madhava pujai so agyani, Radhaya nadara karaya bhimani Radha bhajane jadi mati nahi bhela Krishna bhajana tava akarana gela Abanahi karabi takara sanga chite ichhasi jadi brajarasaranga Radhika dasi jadi hoya bhimana Radhika dasi jadi hoya bhimana shigra hi mile tava gokula kana Radha bhajane jadi mati nahi bhela Krishna bhajana tava akarane gela Brahma Shiva Narada Shruti Narayani Radhika Padaraj Pujaye Mani Umarama Satya Sachi Chandra Rukmini Radhaya Avatar Sabeyam Nayavani Radha Bhajane Jadi Mati Nahi Bhela Krishna bhajana tava akarane gela Radha paricharja jakara dhana bhakti vinoda tara mangaye charan Hare hai no Radha paricharja jakar dhana hai no Radha paricharja jakar dhana bhakti vinoda tara mangaye charan jaya radhe jaya radhe jaya radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Damodara Radha Damodara Thakur Bhakti Vinod Thakur Bhakti Vinod Bhakti Vinod Thakur Bhakti Vinod Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol
Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Ramananda Prabhu. So now we have come to the end of our program. Such a beautiful program. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu vaeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.